I met Magic Johnson when I was maybe 12 years old. I grew up in Newport Beach, California, and there's this very fancy shopping mall in Newport Beach. It's called Fashion Island. It's built in a ring. You can look it up on Google Maps. Circular. And in it, there's 2 movie theaters, or at least there were when I was growing up. One day I go and to the movie theater with my friends. It's tall black man there at the lobby of the movie theater. And my friends were like, that's Magic Johnson. No, I didn't know who Magic Johnson was. I didn't grow up watching a ton of sports. And certainly not basketball. Anyway, they were like, yeah, he's a super famous basketball player. Super famous. And this is the same time that Hitch, the movie, Will Smith movie, is coming out. So there are these little promo postcards for Hitch. So I grabbed one of those and I went up to Magic Johnson and I said, hey, can I get your signature? He's like, sure, young man. He signs it, right? And I was so thrilled that I had succeeded at this. I went back into the theater that my friends and I were sitting in because Magic and I went to different movies that day. We don't always have the same taste. My friends were like, oh, it's so cool, get me a signature or something like this, right? And instead of saying, go get it yourself, it's like, oh, sure, cool. So I went over and I got more of those Hitch cards. And I went over to him and I said, oh, I found him in his theater. He was sitting down now at this point. I said, will you sign these ones? And he said, young man, I'm trying to enjoy this movie here with my wife. And I was like, oh, okay. And I left. And I was like, man, I was a little embarrassed because it's so who I am. To this day, it's so who I am. So persistent to the point of being annoying. And I hope I'm not like this as much anymore, but there was something about that was so toolish. I didn't even know this guy. That postcard went in a box somewhere, and who cares that I got a signature? But it was so ladder climby, so toolish. So it is. Famous person, let me get a signature because my friend said it was cool. That's it wasn't a life-changing moment where I decided to pivot who I was, but I do look back on that cringy experience. And I'm just laughing because there was a future date that I actually, again, in Newport Beach. So Newport Beach is a very wealthy community in Southern California. A lot of rich people live there. A lot of famous people live there. And there was another day in Newport. This is years later. I was at a grocery store and I was standing next to this extremely tall black guy, super tall. Turns out he was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is another famous basketball player. Both these guys are basketball legends. That time, I had the dignity, the grace, not to ask him for a signature. We just said hello, and I went on with my day. Story.